Hello everyone, and welcome to the, I hope, awaited series of me actually going more in depth in Tactica and series. I decided to go for free videos of longer videos where I'll be going in depth on how I approach the game and how I view it from the competitive side mostly, but of course it can also be put to some casual use, it's fine, but the principles will still be applied, although you might be building somewhat different lists for the competitive scene and for the actual, approach. So I decided to actually do these videos because so many of you really enjoyed my in-depth list explanation in terms of the missions and how I put the list structure and progress. And it's not shocking to me that so many of you preferred this to the usual battle reports, and I kind of went over the statistics of my battle reports and found out that almost no one is watching them. So yeah, I guess that this might be more of a context. And we've been having a lot of huge influx of new players here locally, which makes my heart very happy. But those people really need some guidance in terms of where to start and how to actually approach this game. So this is some experience that I already explained to them in real life, of course in Polish. So I decided that I will just go over my points and how to approach the game from my perspective and hopefully give you some idea on where to start, or so maybe like a new perspective that will open your eyes, okay? So this might not really be a rocket science, but I think I kind of approach this individually, especially with how much I spend time on Discord and how sometimes some people go really with abstract ideas and abstract context of situations that they can be explained much easier. So I will hope that I will be able to put my points clearly and without using as many unnecessary complicated words as possible, but be mindful with me. So let's just start with your Tactica. We'll be doing lists. I first will go over the principles and explain them, and then I will try to cook 3 lists for you for 3 different sectorials, and those will be separate ideas of the lists, and I'll just be going over the process of how I would make those lists. They might not be perfect, just bear with me, but the thought process is what matters, okay? So let's just go over my dictionary of how I approach the list building. So rule number 1 is, of course, no GML ever. Absolutely no guided missile launcher at all, right? You should not play it. If you're watching me, if you know me by any chance, either from real life or from internet, it's not really a surprise that I just absolutely love and dislike this mechanic, and it's completely from negative play experience. I don't really want my opponent to feel miserable, and I could make another separate video, but just stick with me, no guided missile launcher, okay? So with this out of the way, because it had to be obvious, then I will split making a list into two different approaches, right? So first, the usual approach of me building a list for an event or for a tournament or for a league or whatever, but pretty much all around base purpose list, or there's something in my mind, okay? So the first question that always comes to my mind is what I actually want to play. And this is a very important question, not only for the faction, for all of those that play multiple factions, but also inside of those factions, what is my go-to unit? What do I want to play? What faction, what specific unit I want to put in my list, which will be the focal point, the core center identity of the list. So in the example of my previous tournament run, I knew that because of set of the missions, I really needed to play something that brings a gather. So let's say, for this particular example, that we'll be playing 2 different set of missions. Supremacy and Unmasking. The usual unmasking or any annihilation type of scenario. But those that score at the end of the game and those that score during the game. Well, it's kind of abstract, but pretty much let's say that I want to play for Supremacy. I know that I want to play a faction or a list that has some midfield presence. That's important because I need to start with points in the zones. Second of all, I need something that's very expensive and mobile, so it will be quick to reposition. and at the same time I need a list that's redundant and can take a punch if I deploy first and go second. So with these ideas, let's say I come up with idea, I want to play Kestrel, I want to play 2 Scarecrows, a Yamabushi, and a Blink. That's it, right? So know what you want to play. And let's just put... This might be this approach. Let's say I play Unmasking. I want something that is a fire team composed of both our specialists, something that can approach into my opponent's side of the table, does not pay for infiltration because there's a occlusion zone. So let's say in the same Kestrel army, I want to build my list around a Crux Knight. A Crux Knight fire team, that's it. Or let's just say I recently painted a new Cutter model, or I recently painted a Boink. I recently painted some miniature that I want to put in my list and it's very important for me. Or I want to play Maximus, and pretty much know what you need to have in your list. Either because of the missions, or because of whatever other reason. Maybe you feel the vibe, but you have to start somewhere, and I think it's very important to have this idea of I want to make this X unit work, or I want to approach this specific situation in mind and I need the tools for this job. Let's say Panic Room, then I need a faction and a list that has some templates and close combat capabilities. So I will start my list with, for example, Fire Team of Teutons. This will be my core of my list, okay? So once we have this is important, then we will build the core of the list, okay? So let's just start with the examples, that will be better. I will be choosing White Banner, because this is kind of me going out of my comfort zone. I played quite some White Banner with N4, but not really in N5. But I have in back of my head this idea that in the meta of pitches, so this also comes from the countering your opponent. Let's say I want to beat a faction that runs their gameplay primarily on the pitches and like a lot of hackers. So I know that I want to play something that deals with them directly. So I will make the core of my list a Dokebi with a killer hacking device and a pitches. And to support her, I need a Tinbot. So let's just go through the equipment. Tinbot Firewall. This immediately gives me that I can choose either Jujak, Sejan, Sora or Shang-Chi. I want to make my fire team with a Shang-Chi because this is the idea I had before going into the list itself. Then, because I really want to put the entire game plan on killing the enemy hackers, I want to have as many attempts at this as possible. So we will also supply this fire team with a Jujak engineer. So at this point, we have those core units that I want to play. Dokebi, Shang-Chi, Jujak. Those are units that I want to build my list around. Either because I painted them, or I think they fit for the mission, or I want to counter something very specific. In this case, enemy infowar capabilities, like enemy hackers pretty much. I want to either blow them up through their own pitchers, best way, or like brute force them because I have an engineer and a firewall, or shoot a pitcher into their face and kill them. Then, after we have this, we need to put the necessary puzzle, so put the support puzzles. So, yeah. So we know that we want to revolve around our gameplay around shooting pitchers, killing the hackers. So we know that we have 2 pitchers and we want to make this as a reliable game plan. So we want to take a baggage bot with us. Because we have a baggage bot, okay, we want to have the Shang-Chi and Jujak running as long as possible to have a firewall and to have the engineer. So we will take a Yao Zhao and a Zanshi Sheng, because even though you have a speedball, I much rather just have an extra doctor. So we have those necessary support elements in. Then, once we have those, this is pretty much all around the core idea. Put the core, like put all the, put the core of the list. Put the basics of the list. So we know that we need to have a a 10 lieutenant in, right? So we go for the lieutenant. And we'll start with the cheapest option. Like, if for lieutenant, for all the pieces that you need to have, I suggest always going for the cheapest option. Then we will go for the expanding. So we have those Anshies. We know that we need the Longias in our list because White Banner does not really exist without Longias. So we put those in. Then we put in the we have the Anshies, we have the Longias. Those are very necessary. Goodans also extremely good because Heavy Flamer, Shock Mines, yeah, they're pretty much like very good. So we'll put those two in. We don't worry at this point about the groups. This is not really relevant. We will do this at the end of the list building. And then we go to the remotes and we put all of the necessary, well, all of maximum level of flashbots. So we have those two flashbots. So we do this regardless of whatever faction we're running, just to feel as close to get as close as 250, well, 300 points. So now that we have all of our lists necessary, we have to look at this and think of the problems that we might run into. So Shang Jesus, Dokebi and Jujek are not super great at dealing against hard arrows. Like the Shang-Chi BS13, all the good stuff, but he's not the best at clearing the high targets. So we either go for one of the two options now. Option number one, we try to brute force them, we try to kill them, and we're looking for a solution to kill them. And we can take a look at what we have in the list, and we already have in our list two Longias. So we could think ourselves, okay, then there might be some coordinate fire possibilities. And let's think what we can have. And I'm thinking myself already, okay, I need a low burst, high damage gun that is easy to coordinate and can kill the enemy hard arrow. And we go ourselves into fire team's chart, yada yada. We have an option of duo. But at the same time, we can also do the other way around and we can just ignore the enemy hard pieces and just discobble them and don't care about them. And we have the, that also requires you some experience with the faction and familiarity, but there's a unit that has both the discobblers and it also has the Panzerfaust, which fulfills both conditions. So we take the Panzerfaust Hwarang. Because we have the Hwarang, we can build next, so they should call it the gaps on the list. Oops, let's just put it here. It's kind of looking like a clusterfuck, apologies guys. But, oops, we have the Hwarang. And we want to do it with somebody, because we already have it. And there is also a missile launcher guy that is also not only a burst one solid gun, but he also fulfills the double DT of a reactive piece. So we put those gaps in the list, and we are already at 50 models. So we already have our list technically full, but we still have points left. And that's usually how I get to those situations. And then finally the point number 6 is to upgrade, fill the gaps in the list, upgrade with points. Let's do this. And we come to the final option of upgrading your stuff. So remember when I said that you should always just put all of the flash pulse bot? Now we can remove this flash pulse bot and remove the other flash pulse bot, which leaves us with 50 points. And we can have another look at the list, what we're kind of missing. We know that we have the Dokebi, Shang-Chi, Jujek, but we don't really have anything that's stealthy and can bypass the activators if necessary. At the same time, we don't have anything that fights in close combat outside the Hwarang. And White Banner keeps us full of those options with Liang Kai. We first go for the cheaper options again, like I said, we have Liang Kai. We know from the memory, of course, from the fire team chart that Liang Kai can fire team with a Shaolin monk. So that's what we will be doing. We will be finding the monk, Shaolin warrior monk. We go for Shaolin monk. And we have, again, 15 new models, 23 points. So we're still not quite hitting the mark of upgrading the stuff. So at this point we can either look at upgrading the lieutenant to somebody else. We'll have remaining orders. This is something we can do. We could take the Gulag Lieutenant instead of the Zanshi if we want to be extra safe. This is also mission and meta dependent. But let's just, again, take a breather and think what we can upgrade. While the Liang Kai is good, he's not a specialist, so he can actually be kicked out, and we can upgrade the Liang Kai into a Jinko. Jinko, there's the Jinko. She also got a glow up, so she's quite decent. And we still have 12 points remaining. We know that we can always take a Yao Zhao, but we don't really care at that point for this. So here is more to a personal preference. What would you kick from the list to have the ultimate option? I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe there's option to go for a Ruishi instead of like upgrading a Gudan into a Ruishi. This is possibility number one. We don't necessarily need both the Gulags. They are good, but we can take the one of the Gudans. Let's just do that, which leaves us with 25 points. And we could either go for a Gulag, a mine layer, to start up with a repeater, for example, if this is something you would like to do. We can also go for the Liang Kai, which we just kicked out of the list, so we can bring him back in. Or we could, for example, go for a Ruishi. We already have smoke, so we already have a smoke, we already have an engineer. So, for the sake of example, this will be kind of your own personal preference, but I don't really believe in the Gulag. I myself will go for the Liang Kai, and I will spend the last remaining points to upgrade a Yao Zhao. This will leave us with a full 300 points, and now it's up to us to separate those into groups. This is a final thing that I would personally do, because I first want to see what I want in the list to then know how to distribute those. We were thinking lately before, we were thinking first about coordinating the Panzerfaust, so that's what we will do. We have two Longias, a Jujak and a Hwarang. This will be our group 2. We'll put everyone else into group 1 for now. So we have 5 models, well, Jinko also, go there. So we have 4 models in group 2 that we want to coordinate to remove any hard arrows. So we want to have a 5th order. The Zanshi Sheng will be reviving either a Jujak or the Shang Jesus. So it's probably not best for her to be in the same group as him. At the same time, no one in group 2 can spend orders. So I think in the end we'll go for the Liang Kai into group 2. And we'll just leave it at that, okay? Let's just call this as a final complete list. Jinko fighting with the Shaolin. The Zanshi Sheng gets 2 Yao Zhaos. Pangoling there to support both the Panzerfaust, Disco Baller, and the pitches from the Dokebi. And that's how we end up with the list. Is this list the best that the White Banner can bring? Maybe, I'm not sure. I have not tested this. But we can kind of go for the approach of how I build the list, okay? So with these rules in the way, let's just try doing another one, and this time we'll be doing Svartalfheim, because this is also something that I have on my menu of lists that I want to play. And let's start with the idea that I want to build myself a counter list against Kestrel. For whatever reason, either the Kestrel is super popular, or I believe that the Kestrel will be... We want to build an anti-Kestrel list. It's either popular, or we believe that this will be a lot of people will be bringing this for an event, or Kestrel-esque factions, meaning that factions that run a lot of MSV and mimetism. So we know those factions, like I said. We want to counter both the mimetism and we want to counter the MSV, both of those tools. So we're looking through our library, and we think the Svartalfheim will be the way to go because it has the best albedo options outside of Crux in the Pan-Oceania. And we'll start a list with the Boig. We want to put the Boig onto the table. Because the Boig has albedo -6, a missile launcher. It can very well take on the Black Air, and it's also pulls double duty as a reactive piece, which can be very troublesome for your opponent if they don't have any mimetic pieces to take care on, because even Crux does not really like to fight Boig if the Boig can outrange it. So we already have the Boig in, but he's kind of sad without friends, right? We want to build ourselves a Harris for the Boig. And very quickly we can see that we can choose either Carchus, Knights, Hospitaliers, Informers, Nieces. But we want to have Purity, which leaves out the last final 3 options. So we could either go for the Karhus, 2 Hospitalier Knights, or a second Boyg. I don't really believe in a second Boyg, it just doesn't fit right with me. And Knight Hospitaliers are also an option, but we'll decide to go with the Karhus, because the Kestrel can also go for the tag of themselves, Tigbalang, and Karhus really punish the Tigbalang quite substantially. And in a pinch they can also fight against the Black Air, although I wouldn't really do that, but they do have the tools of, 4 dices against 3 dices. All in all, I will be going with the Karhus in the end, so we'll take a Feuerbach and the Paramedic. At that point we don't really think about the rest of the list, this is the core of our starting point. So now we have the Boyg and we have 2 Karhus, and we need to put the support pieces that will help our Boyg to carry the game. We'll choose the Traumadoc, that's kind of the only support piece we will have. I will try to do the tag list, which will have more support elements, but that's kind of the very basics. Now we put the actual basics of the list in, because we know that we need to have a lieutenant, and Fusilier plus lieutenant is a really good way to start the list. Then we go for the Fugazis, we have the maximum amount of Fugazis, and that's kind of the basics of our list, right? Those are the tools that we will be having. And also, right, I forgot importantly that because Kestrel can run Blink, it can even run 2 Blinks, when to take the multi-sniper guy with the Nisse. The reason why we take it's either HMG or a multi-sniper. I think personal preference, I much rather have the multi-sniper because it can have better ranges against the Blink or like Ryukens and mimetic pieces that have rocket launchers pretty much. And it can also pull double duty as a reactive piece, so it's more versatile than the HMG. So we'll go for the cheapest option of Nisse and the Engineer. That was supposed to be in the point 2, sorry guys. And then now we have 207 points. We have 11 orders. And now we need to put the gaps in our list, to fill the gaps. So we need some tools to attack our opponent, because currently we have the Boyg, which is like a good reactive piece, and Nisse, which is a good reactive piece, Karhu, which is more of a long range gun. So we obviously see a gap in which we don't have anything to attack our opponent with. So we'll just add ourselves a Liankai. We'll add ourselves a Liankai to the list. We'll add the Liankai, and we add the Beast Counter with Heavy Flamethrower. Those 2 models. We still have a lot of tools to do, so we can now just go into adding some extra stuff. Again, because we kind of want to double down on the idea of we are countering Mimetism and we're countering the MSV, so we can just go for the Albedo. We have a Disco Baller, that's what, sure, but we can have second Disco Baller. We will take the Forward Observer Rocket Launcher and a Disco Baller Varg. This leaves us with 9 points remaining, and we already have a full list. So at that point, we are going to upgrade our stuff. So we could go and upgrade, let's say, a Traumadoc, right? We can upgrade the Beast Hunter. We can upgrade the Beast Hunter for Shona. We can do a lot of crazy stuff. Or we can also just scrap the Varg idea. This can also be done. And we can take a Varg, like an Orc with a Feuerbach, with a Fusiliers. We could have been doing this, or a Knight of Justice. But this neither fights against Albedo, neither fights against Mimetism, neither it fights against MSV. So we're sticking with our plan of making a counter against Kestrel. And the remaining points, we already have Vargs, and you can just have a look that Vargs can link with Shona. So we can upgrade, we can discard the Beast Hunter and upgrade it into Shona Carano. This leaves us with 3 points remaining, and we could either go for try to upgrade the Varg into a different option, or we could just slap ourselves a Palbot for a Traumadoc. So at this point we have 299, we have all the necessary tools, we have the Boyg, which we wanted to play, we have the tools against Mimetism in the form of Nisse Sniper. There is not much of Mimetism to be going, like through the Blinks. And then we have a more Albedo with the Varg, and we have close combat models that can get into our opponent's side of the table and just fuck him up. And yeah, that's kind of the idea, and then we can just think around with the groups, right? So the Traumadoc with the 2 Palbots, Let's just make it group 2. Let's make the varg Shona and the varg into this group. Nisse with the engineer, not likely to have to need a lot of orders. And then because Shona is in this group, we want to make the Lianka in the other group, and we can drag the Fugazi into this group. Whatever you do with those groups, it's not really super important. It's pretty much your personal preference. You can do either 9, 6, 8, 7. It's not that big of a deal in my opinion, as long as you have all the necessary pieces and the list kind of works itself if you just start it from the bottom up. For my final example, I will try to do you a tag list, although I'm not super tag expert. But let's just say that we have this idea that we want to play the Tigbalang, because there is no competitive, there's like no mission. We just painted ourselves a brand new Tigbalang. We want to put this bad boy on the table. That's the idea. That's pretty much all we have for the list. So we take the, of course, the better option, the more expensive one. If necessary, we can always downgrade. So we have the Tigbalang, but he's an obvious lieutenant and he's very much likely to be put into danger. So we would like to go for chain of command option. Generally, the Magister is the safest out of the three, because Emily and the Firefly, you kind of need an idea for them. But let's just pretend that you can choose either of those. Let's just go with the Magistrate, because it's probably the first option you want to go, because it's also the cheapest, right? Remember what I said about going always for the cheapest option? He's also the cheapest option. So now that we have the Magistrate with chain of command, we also need someone to unstack our tag if it happens to run into an accident. So we take the usual engineer and the Palbot combo. Okay. Then we need to have some killer hacker that can clear the way for our tag. And we can just go into the killer hacking device. I'm personally not a fan of the Blacker, but again, just go for the cheapest option always. Banshee is 23, Scarecrow is 27, we just go for the Banshee, it's the cheapest. Now that we have all the necessary tools that we can build our list around, we go to the next one. We put the basics of the list in. We put ourselves a Fugazi, there's not really a lot to put in. And since we have a Magistrate already, we might as well use the core of the Magistrate, so there we go with the two Jackals. Right rocket launcher and a Panzerfaust. So this kind of substitutes of our core, and because we're playing Kestrel, we would like to have the access. I personally would like to have the Black Air, so I'm taking a Black Air, a multi-sniper, and the cheapest, absolutely cheapest option to make a fire team with the Black Air. Okay, always just go for the cheapest first. Then we have those tools. Okay, but now to go, now where to go? Like we need to think about the the gaps in our list. Currently, all of our staff, well, our Tigbalang is our main player. We have some support elements around the Tigbalang, but there is no close combat. If our Tigbalang gets stuck in close combat, we have no way of digging the Tigbalang out of the close combat. So naturally, we want to gravitate towards the close combat option, and the cheapest in the faction is the Yamabushi. We take the Panzerfaust because there's like no real way, no reason to go for the other one. So we take the Yamabushi in. So now we're kind of looking at the list, and we know that Black Air is a very good reactive piece, but it will struggle tremendously against the Albedo and White Noise. So Albedo and White Noise usually don't come with a mimetism of their own or like MSV of their own. So naturally we want to have some tool to punish the MSV, well, non-MSV option. So we can just go for the blink. We can go for the blink, heavy rocket launcher. So at this point, it's pretty much to fill out the gaps of what the mission is. Let's say I am playing Supremacy. If I'm playing Supremacy, or I know I will be playing Supremacy, then it's natural to just go for a second Yamabushi. Once I have those, I can put in the list like a Peacemaker, which is the better one. Oh, I can limit it up. And you know, I have 9 points remaining, which some reason happens to be a Tabi. So let's pretend that this is for Supremacy. We want to put as much stuff on the table as possible. But let's just say that we're playing Unmasking, okay? So we'll kick the Peacemaker out, we'll kick the Yamabushi, we'll revert to the situation we had previously. And with the unmasking, you need some tool that will be able to attack your opponent HVGs and dig them out if they are hidden, like if they are well protected. So you need something that is fast, has like a good reach and ability to attack enemy HVTs from unsuspecting angles. And this would be, in my opinion, either the Dart or the Red Eye. Okay? So for some, like, we don't really have points for the Red Eye. Neither do we really have for Dart. That's not an option. So we go for the cheapest alternative. The Yamabushi, well, the Beast Hunter is faster, it can super jump, so it's different in this way from the Beast than the Yamabushi. So just go for the Beast Hunter. We have 23 points remaining. And there would be some, like, it would be good to have some option to press the button. Like, let's say that one Banshee is not enough for us, not sufficient for us. Then we could just go for the other Banshee. But that's pretty much the last final flex is kind of up to you. But we can also think to ourselves, okay, we have the Engineer already, we can take the Sierra. That's also a possibility. It slots right into the list. So if we don't need any more tools inside of the zones, because we already have the infrastructure of the Engineer, we might as well just slip in the total reaction bot. And if this is not a mission, if this is not really important in the context of you playing specific mission, I think the Sierra just fits right in. So this is our list. We have all of the checkboxes active. We have 0 points remaining because it filled right in. So we just need to separate the groups. And also the Beast Hunter can be a Yamabushi, it's not really important. It can be like this. It's not really important. Once you have the core of your list, everything else is gravy. Once you hit the 15 orders, the remaining code is like, don't really pay much attention to this. Personally, my preference would be to go for the Engineer Group 2, Blink for the Group 2, Total Reaction for Group 2, and just make Group 2 sacrificial pounds. And probably reinforce this with one Banshee, just to have some tools to use from Group 2, so it's not all completely useless. But we could also remove the TAG because we have no Forward Observer, no Deactivator in the list, no Disco Baller. So there could be also possibility to downgrade the TAG or downgrade the Sierra into a Thunderbolt, even though I personally don't like it. This frees you up the points to take a Forward Observer, or a regular hacker as well. This is also a possibility that you can do. I honestly don't really feel that you need to have a hacker with your tag nowadays. It will just get killed regardless, and it's a really easy way to deny a blacker the fighting options. But this pretty much is gravy. We could just discuss on and on, but I hope you kind of got my point across. So let me just go over one more time to just sum it up. So first of all, don't play Guided Missile Launcher. Second of all, know what you want to play, which units you want to play specifically, for whatever reason. Whether it's mission, you just painted this, you have a gut feeling, or you want to counter somebody specific, or like some army specifically, just know where to start. Have this idea of a core team, a Harris team. It can even be like 2 or 3 models. It just has to be more than one. It should not be just a Boyd, it should be like a Boyd plus a Nissa Sniper in this Valahayama example, or Dokebi, Shang-Chi and the Zhuzhak, or in this example a Tik Balang. But pretty much your base start of the list should be as close to 100 points as possible. Once you have the start of your list, you put the necessary support pieces to this particular models you want to play. So if we have a Boyd and a Nisse, we want some models to make ourselves fire teams, so Karkus and the Engineer. If we want to play the Tik Balang, we need to take Chain of Command, we need to take a Killer Hacker and an Engineer. If we want to play the Dokebi fire team, we would like to have some Doctor with us to revive the Shang-Jesus. Once you have those, put all of the cheap stuff you can find in your list. All of the Flash Pulse Bolts, all of the regular goodies like Tag Bees, Jackals, all kind of the stuff, like cheapest Phoenix we can find. Always go for the cheapest. Then you fill the gaps in your list, and the gaps, I know they can be very abstract and to each their own, but I would just sum it up to have something to attack your opponent with in close combat if needed, so like close and personal, and have some reactive pieces that will shore up your weaknesses in the other areas, or like fill the tools that you want like your opponent to attack your opponent hardest arrow piece with. So for example, coordinated Panzerfaust and missile launchers. Okay. So now once you have all of those, you should hit 15 models usually before hitting 300 points. So with all the remaining leftover points, you just upgrade all of your stuff. Replace Flash Putzbot, replace Workhorse, replace the cheapest options with more expensive ones, but you should always first hit the 15 trooper limit and only then go for the upgrading. I think you should never start with the most expensive model unless it's core of your list, because you can very easily run yourself into a corner of wanting to squeeze all of the good stuff in the list, but being unable to do that. So thanks everyone for watching this. I hope you learned something, and if you have any further questions or any follow-ups that I could do to explain my thought process, please leave some comment and give me some feedback. And I'll be sure to follow up this video with how to approach a reactive turn and how to approach the active turn from my point of view. So thanks everyone for watching, and thanks for sticking with me to the end. Bye.